It's not just a holiday. It's a lightning rod for debates about heroism, conquest, and a painful past. Why do we celebrate a day for Christopher Columbus? And why do so many people want to scrap it? What's the real story behind this holiday that's got everyone talking? Stick around, because the truth about Columbus Day is way more complicated and heated than you might think. It's 2025, and Columbus Day is still a federal holiday in the United States, celebrated on the second Monday of October. But it's also a day that sparks protests, celebrations, and arguments about history. This video is all about the truth behind Columbus Day, how it started, what it means, and why it's so controversial today. We're diving into its roots, its evolution, and the big question: should we still celebrate it? The big challenge is this: Columbus Day honors a man who opened the Americas to Europe, but his voyages also brought devastation to native peoples. Some see him as a bold explorer, others as a symbol of colonization's horrors. How did a holiday celebrating his 1492 landing become such a divisive issue? And what does it say about how we view history? Let's break it down and uncover the real story. Columbus Day started with a simple idea: to celebrate Christopher Columbus's arrival in the Americas on October 12, 1492. His first voyage, landing on an island he called San Salvador, kicked off a wave of exploration that changed the world. But Columbus wasn't a hero to everyone. His actions led to disease, slavery, and conquest for native peoples like the Taino. So, how did he get a holiday? And why is it such a big deal now? Let's go back to the beginning. The idea of Columbus Day took shape in the United States in the late 1800s. Italian immigrants, facing discrimination in cities like New York and Boston, saw Columbus, a Genoa-born sailor, as a symbol of their heritage. He was one of them, a Catholic Italian who made it big, even if for Spain. In 1892, the 400th anniversary of his first voyage, Italian-American groups pushed for a day to honor him. They held parades and lobbied politicians, wanting to show their pride and prove they belonged in America. The first big celebration came in 1892, when President Benjamin Harrison declared October 12th a one-time national holiday to mark the anniversary. Cities like New York went all out. Parades, speeches, and statues of Columbus popped up. Italian Americans loved it. It gave them a hero to rally around. But it wasn't just about pride. Politics played a role. The US wanted to strengthen ties with Latin America, and celebrating Columbus was a way to highlight shared history with Spanish-speaking countries. By the early 1900s, Columbus Day was a regular event in some states. Colorado made it a state holiday in 1907, the first to do so. Italian-American groups, like the Knights of Columbus, kept pushing, and by 1934, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared it a federal holiday, set for October 12th. In 1971, it moved to the second Monday in October for a long weekend. For decades, it was a feel-good day. Parades, school plays, and stories about Columbus discovering America. But here's where things get messy. Columbus didn't discover an empty land. The Americas had millions of people: Taino, Aztec, Inca, Cherokee, and more, with rich cultures, cities, and trade networks. Columbus's voyages brought smallpox, slavery, and conquest. The Taino, who welcomed him in 1492, were nearly wiped out by 1550, with populations dropping from hundreds of thousands to a few thousand due to disease and violence. His governorship in Hispaniola saw brutal policies, forced labor, gold tributes, and enslavement that set a pattern for later conquistadors. By the late 20th century, people started questioning the holiday. Native American activists, historians, and others pointed out the dark side of Columbus's legacy. His arrival sparked the Columbian Exchange, swapping crops like potatoes and corn for horses and wheat. but it also led to millions of native deaths and the African slave trade to replace them. By the 1990s, protests against Columbus Day grew, especially during the 1992 quincentennial. Native groups called it a celebration of genocide, not discovery, and pushed for a rethink. Let's talk about the controversy. For some, Columbus Day is about exploration and courage. Italian Americans still see it as a nod to their heritage, a way to honor an underdog who changed history. Schools often teach kids about his daring voyages, his navigation skills, and how he opened the Americas to Europe. Supporters say he's not responsible for everything that followed. Disease wasn't his fault, and he was a man of his time, driven by gold and faith like any 15th century sailor. On the other side, critics argue that Columbus Day whitewashes history. Native American groups, like the American Indian movement, say it glorifies a man who enslaved people and sparked centuries of oppression. They point to his journals, where he calls the Taino good servants and takes him to a child of God. Historians like Howard Zinn, in books like A People's History of the United States, highlight the violence and exploitation tied to Columbus's actions. For many, the holiday ignores the suffering of indigenous peoples and enslaved Africans, whose descendants also see it as a painful reminder of colonization. The debate's gotten louder in recent years. Some cities and states have replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day, honoring native cultures instead. Places like Los Angeles, Seattle, and Vermont made the switch by 2025, with more considering it. Proponents say it's a way to recognize the resilience of indigenous peoples and tell a fuller story of history. But others, especially some Italian American groups, feel it erases their cultural pride and rewrites history to vilify Columbus. Let's look at how Columbus Day is celebrated today. In cities with significant Italian American populations, like New York and Chicago, you'll still see parades, festivals, and statues of Columbus. Schools might close, and federal workers get the day off. But protests are common. Activists often gather at Columbus statues, calling for their removal or defacing them with paint. Social media, especially on X, lights up every October with arguments. Posts praising Columbus as a visionary clash with ones calling him a colonizer. It's a cultural tug-of-war. The global context adds another layer. In Latin America, October 12th is often called Dia de la Raza, or Day of the Americas, focusing on cultural mixing rather than Columbus himself. Countries like Mexico celebrate mestizo identity, the blend of indigenous, European, and African roots, without the same holiday baggage. In Europe, Columbus is a historical figure, not a holiday, so the debate's mostly an American thing, tied to the US's unique history of immigration and colonization. What's the truth about Columbus Day? It's a holiday born from Italian-American pride and a nod to exploration, but it's also a flashpoint for reckoning with the past. Columbus's voyages brought potatoes, horses, and global trade, but also disease, slavery, and conquest. The Americas today, diverse, connected, but scarred by inequality, owe their shape to his 1492 landing. The holiday forces us to ask, how do we honor history without ignoring its pain? The climax of this story is the ongoing fight over Columbus Day's meaning. It's not just about 1492. It's about how we tell the story now. In 2025, the holiday stands at a crossroads. Some march for Columbus, others for indigenous peoples, and the divide reflects more profound questions about identity and history. Neither side's going away, and the debate keeps growing. So, what's the truth about Columbus Day? It's a mirror of our struggle to face history head-on, celebrating discovery while grappling with its cost. Columbus isn't just a man. He's a symbol of exploration's triumphs and tragedies. The big question is, what's next for the Americas as we keep rethinking our past? That's what we'll explore next. Columbus Day isn't just a date on the calendar. It's a battleground for how we see history, from heroic tales to painful truths. Want to know how the next chapter of the Americas unfolded after Columbus? Check out the following video. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my video with others.